Love your Link shirt, by the way.
Thank you. My son's middle name is Link.
Really?
Yes,
That's
my wife
so
let me get away with that
cool.
one.
Oh my gosh. I haven't played A Link to the Past, but I am very into Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes, of course. Let's talk about that.
Yes, I love Tears of the Kingdom so much that I'm like playing it very slowly because I don't know what I'm going to do when I beat it.
Yes, it's Link to the Past is one of my favorite of all time, of course, and you know a lot of people say that it is. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, so very fun. Funny story about Tears of the Kingdom for me is that my son just recently deleted my entire game.
Oh no!
So we're starting again from scratch, but we're doing it together, which is fun.
That's good. You're not disowning him or anything. Okay.
No, not at all. It's just he overwrote my save file, and then all of a sudden I'm like, why are you in the cave with Zelda right now, and underneath Hyrule Castle? And then I realized he's at the beginning of the game again.
Oh.
So, but here we are. We're starting from scratch. But that's so cool that you're a gamer and that you play
a little
Zelda.
bit. I play a lot of the games that people don't really consider real games, I would say, like Stardew Valley, things like that.
Okay. Stardew Valley fans in the house. That's what's up.
Yeah, definitely.
Were you always a gamer, or is this something that just...
See, we didn't have... I have 3 older brothers, and they used to fight over the game system we had, so my mom got rid of it. But the thing was, one of my brothers, he did a double major in computer science and paleontology. He's a nerd and super smart. But because he knew so much about computer science, he would pirate some games, and we would play some there. And I didn't know at the time that this was, illegal. But you can't. He's paid for it now. He buys all his video games now.
Right.
But yeah, we would do that, and we did a lot of PC gaming. So we were a PC gaming family for sure. And as I've gotten older, I didn't play as many because the thing is, a lot of my jobs are freelance, and when you do freelance and you spend all your time gaming, that is dangerous. So it's really been only in the past couple of years that I've gotten more into games as I've had like more regular jobs, because then at the end of the day you can come home and do it. But a lot of my favorite games are like nostalgic, like Chrono Trigger, things like that.
My gosh.
Yeah,
I have the original soundtrack just running in my head all the time.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Chrono Trigger. I was a big fan of King's Quest, Kirby's Adventure. Games like that. Fun games like that.
That's really cool. But it is such a great escape when you're coming home from a long day or you got something to think about. You
Definitely.
can just lose yourself, especially in a world so big as Zelda.
Yeah, exactly. I like cooking in Zelda. I love the little music that it plays. I don't like cooking in real life, but I like cooking. I like cooking in Breath of the Wild.
It's a lot of fun. Well, thank you so much for being here in Oklahoma City. How's your weekend been so far for you?
It's been great. This is actually my first time in Oklahoma City. I've been to Tulsa before. Anyone from Tulsa? Yeah, we filmed a little bit of a movie called A Simple Wish outside Tulsa. And we, I mean, here, I think it's beautiful. I told one of my brothers I was coming here, and he goes, I love Oklahoma City. And I was like, oh yeah? He's like, yeah, it's so beautiful there. It's so green. The people are so friendly. He said, I wish I were in Oklahoma City right now. And sure enough, it's really nice here. And my gosh, the fans here are incredibly nice.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, they're super cool people here. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love the red earth. I love the trees. I mean, I'm from Los Angeles originally, so any place where there's a lot of green trees is like exotic to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, it's so green and so lush,
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you were born and raised in Burbank or in
Burbank, California, probably the animation capital of the United States.
Yeah, absolutely, and definitely a hub for entertainment, and definitely the heart of Hollywood in LA.
Yeah.
It's probably a very easy, I wouldn't say easy, but what a perfect place to be raised when you're going to look for a career in Hollywood.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of happened on accident. And my friends, a lot of my friends were child actors too. And people will say, how did you get into it? And I'll say, well, I lived in Burbank because it was such a normal thing to do there. There were always casting calls. So my family, I think, was in a toothpaste commercial. And then one of my brothers was like, oh, I'd like this. I like to do more commercials. And he did a couple. He did ones for Sizzler, I think. He was in the movie Turner and Hooch.
Wow.
Which is a cop movie about a dog. Yeah. And then he kind of got tired of it, but I saw what he was doing, and I wanted to go out for auditions. And my mom tried to discourage me, and they really didn't want me to, but yeah, I got cast, and then I went on this open call for a movie called Mrs. Doubtfire and ended up getting it. And I was 5 years old.
Yeah, Mrs. Doubtfire, you ever heard of it?
Yeah. So it was kind of completely on accident. Like my parents, a lot of people will be like, oh, your parents must have gotten you into it. And I was like, no, I just saw what was happening and I thought it looked fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was a performative little girl. I like to, sing and dance and make up stories and perform. So yeah, it felt kind of natural to me.
Yeah, it was really cool. I got to see recently that you got to reconnect with Lisa Jacob and with Matthew
Yeah.
Lawrence on an episode of the Brotherly Love pod.
Yeah, we're still friends. We're still friends. I mean, both Lisa and Matt will tell you this as well. But when we did, the tests, like the screen tests and the final auditions, they would sort of introduce us to a couple different kids there, and we would see, kind of like chemistry tests, which one we felt the best. And I remember secretly hoping that I would get the part, but that Matt and Lisa would get the part too, because they felt like family. And they still feel like family. They're still like my big brother and sister.
There's definitely a chemistry among you all.
Yeah. We all felt like we understood each other. It was really nice.
So let's talk about Miss Doubtfire. We might as well start there because, that was such a huge hit movie with such a tremendous talent. Of course, Robin Williams and Pierce Brosnan, Sally Field. What was it like to work with them? And, you were young at the time, so did you realize, did you have like a scope of what was going on and like how huge these stars were?
I don't think I did. I knew Robin Williams from Aladdin, and I remember I would always get stomach bugs when I was a kid, and I remember staying home and watching Mork and Mindy. So I knew him a little bit, but I don't think I really even had a concept of fame at that age. So, and I knew Sally was a really established actress that my mom really liked. And and Harvey Fierstein as well, and Pierce Brosnan, I knew, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of know, I know that these are people that, people respect, but I didn't really have any sense of that. And it's really funny because I have a lot of memories of those times. I remember running around on the dance floor at the rap party and looking up into someone's face, and it was George Lucas. And my brother, who was a big Monty Python fan, got really excited when we saw Eric Idle. And it was really, but I mean, they were wonderful. Sally was incredibly sweet and would, help me with my lines. And Robin would, he could be very quiet, and, he had an introverted side, I think, but he would just kind of go on, he would sort of turn on and become this, consummate performer. And he would do goofy things, he would have little hand puppets, with his hand that would go I don't like you, you smell like poop, which I was 5, so I thought that was the funniest thing in the world. And he would make his carpet bag bark like a dog, and I remember there's the petting zoo scene, and I remember he fed the pony some oats out of his hat, and then turned to me with the hat and said, "Wanna wear it?" And I got a really grossed out look on my face because there was pony slobber in it, and everybody laughed and they had to yell cut.
That's hilarious. So, Miss Doubtfire comes out, and it's a huge hit. And then all of a sudden, you're catapulted into the realm of fame. How did that affect you? How old were you when you shot that film?
I was 5. So I think that I didn't, and the thing is that a year in a kid's life is so much. If there's any kids here, you all know the difference between being 7 and 8, is a big difference. And, 11 and 12 is a big difference. And so a lot of the times, by the time that the movie came out, it was kind of I'd moved on with my life. I'm in 2nd grade now. Come on, I'm not even thinking about that movie. So it was hard sometimes, I think, for me to understand, oh, these people are my fans. Oh, these people like me. It was I couldn't really connect with it as well. But I really wanted to do more movies. I had fun doing them. So I got cast in a movie called Miracle on 34th Street.
Yes.
And the funny thing about that movie was when I auditioned for it, my mom was telling me about what it was, and she said, yeah, it's a movie about a little girl who doesn't believe in Santa Claus. And I said, oh, is she Jewish like us? And my mom said, I'll look into that. And the thing was that I didn't grow up observing, as a friend of mine said, observing Santa Claus. I didn't grow up celebrating with Santa Claus, but I did believe in a lot of other magic things. I definitely believed in the Tooth Fairy very strongly. And that was probably because my mom would have us write letters to the Tooth Fairy, probably because she wanted us to practice our writing. So I did believe in magic, and that was part of the movie for me. But I always tell people that, Lord Richard Attenborough was really the only Santa that I ever believed in.
Oh.
And he felt like Santa.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, that movie, again, was another one that really touched people's hearts and really, again, catapulted you into another sense of fame that was like, she's so loving and such a great on-screen.
Thank you.
Honestly, on-screen, like, you portrayed these characters in such a great way that were so believable and so, like, relatable.
Thank you. I think that I was the kind of kid where, like, if you asked me if I'd done something wrong, my face would always give me away. And I think that was really good with acting because I could be expressive, I don't think I was like, a supreme, wonderful actress, but I do think that, I think that I was probably suited for it at that age. It's really nice. Like, I always tell people if you can be in a holiday movie, you should, because it's really fun to, like, be a part of people's holiday memories.
Yeah, for sure.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, I know that there's people who still watch that movie every year.
As a tradition. And I'm like, that is so cool. How cool is it to be a part of people's Christmas every single year?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Even if you don't celebrate.
Even if I don't celebrate it. I mean, Irving Berlin was Jewish and he wrote White Christmas, and who doesn't love White Christmas, right? So,
Absolutely.
So yeah,
So then, how long after Miracle on 34th Street did Matilda come to be?
Matilda, I think I auditioned for it just as we were starting to film Miracle, because I remember my mom coming into my room when we were in Chicago and saying, Mara, you got it, you got Matilda. And I was so excited because I loved the story. My mom actually used to read out loud Matilda to my brother's classes.
Wow.
So it
this
was
is
a big
before.
part.
That's
yeah,
amazing.
It was a big part of our family. So I was so excited, and I met Danny DeVito, and I loved him right away. It's kind of hard not to love Danny. And he is just the loveliest guy. And he was like, oh, yeah, I knew I wanted you for Matilda.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, not long after that, we filmed it, and I knew it was going to be great because she was one of my favorite characters ever.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably the movie that I'm the proudest of. And I think it's the movie that people come up to me with tears in their eyes, and then I start crying too, telling me how much Matilda meant to them. So I feel very lucky to have worked on that.
Absolutely. And then, you not only got to do the movie, but you got to cultivate a great relationship with Danny DeVito.
Yes.
What does his relationship with you mean to you even now?
I always tell people he's like my fun uncle. And like, even if we don't talk for a while, when we meet each other again, we always just pick up right where we left off. We have a nice dinner. Like, the last time he texted me was to ask if I'd seen the eclipse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he's really lovely. And I think there's a lot of things about him that would surprise people. Like, he definitely has this part where he plays these really like gruff or disgusting characters very well. You think of the Penguin or Frank Reynolds. But
Yeah.
But he has such a good heart, and he's so gentle. And like, the last time I saw him, he was talking about like maybe wanting to build like a little like swing set, or like a little swing in like a tree grove for like his granddaughters to sit in. And I went, Danny, you have a cottagecore streak. And I had to explain to him what cottagecore is. But when I did, he was like, oh yeah, I guess I kind of do. I mean, he helped design, Miss Honey's cabin, or Miss Honey's little house. But yeah, he wanted me creatively involved too. The doll that Matilda has in it, the one with the spiky red hair, he asked me, he said, do you think that she might have made a doll based on things they had lying around? And so I designed that doll when I was 7.
That's really cool.
Yeah, he wanted me creatively involved the whole time.
That's awesome. And, he kind of, like you said, like an uncle, or kind of like a figure in your life that can kind of lead you down the path, or actually encourage your art.
He did, and he encouraged me to stay in school and get a good education. And he also really took care of me and my family when we were going through hard times.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we always, there were a lot of people in our lives that, Michael Ritchie was another person who really took care of me around that time. And I consider myself very lucky to have had them in my life.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a native New Yorker myself. I'm from Long Island.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that you lived in New York for some time. You went to school out there. Coming from LA, how did New York differ from what you were born and raised in? And what are some of the things that you really love or miss about New York?
The thing I love about New York is that there's always something happening at any time. It was really fun to be able to go out there and just walk outside, and there would be a concert, a comedian, a show, some like movie revival thing, there was always something going on. So I never really had to plan. I could just kind of wander and end up in anything. So it was fun. It was exciting. I do think that it got a little bit stressful though to live there after a while. And there was a lot of things that I missed about California. I think if you, people think of California and they think of their stereotypes, but there's a lot to it. There's a lot more to it than that. You go to the Central Valley, you go to Northern California, you go inland, and it's a completely different place. There's a lot of nature, and I'm not like super outdoorsy, but I grew up like going to the desert, going to the mountains, going to the beach. I was a Girl Scout, like that was the kind of stuff that I really missed. I missed like being outside and nature, and yeah, I mean, I still do miss New York, but it is also nice that I can go outside. I mean, New York's weather is unpredictable. It's not as predictable as Oklahoma City's, but I actually looked it up and they have similar climates.
Yeah.
I've also experienced sudden hail in, late spring, early summer in New York. And, but yeah, I do definitely miss it, but California is home.
Of course. I guess we're all... For me, New York is always going to be home for me. So for me, I always love going back there.
I love it. But I love traveling, too. I love the Midwest. I've loved it here. I love Texas. I love, where my family is from and like, Minnesota and Illinois. Like, there's a lot of places. There's very few places I've gone to where I'm like, this place isn't great. Like, I think there's everywhere you go, there's something to offer.
Do you ever get to travel outside the States at all?
I do. I've actually been doing a lot of cons in the UK, which is
wow.
super fun. I'm doing one next month in Yorkshire. I got to go to Scotland, and the cool thing about going to other countries is a lot of other countries, like in Edinburgh, you can walk down the street, and there will be a building that's 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
And that just blows my mind. I'm like, here is an actual castle. What's it like to have a castle in your backyard? And I mean, there's tons of history in the U.S., too. There's a lot of Native American history, There's more modern American history. But there it's very apparent. It's like, oh, here's a cathedral. Oh, here's this. I also went to Tokyo when I was a kid, and oh my gosh, I want to go back there
like
so
my dream.
badly.
And you're even rocking like the red and black version of the yellow Bruce Lee vibe going on.
It is
right
a little
now.
bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, somebody saw this once and they said, "Oh, are you cosplaying as Joker? Are you the Joker?" And I was like, "Oh, I do kind of, don't I?" But I mean, I was on Batman Beyond, but
what is Tokyo like? Because that's like my dream trip is to go to Tokyo.
My mom called it the world's biggest nightlight because there were just neon signs everywhere, and people were very friendly. They're obviously a bit more reserved, more polite, but it was just like I went there as a kid and I was like, I never want to leave. This place is so cool. And my mom had to tell me like, no, we live in the United States. We are not moving to Tokyo. But, the food was good. The people were, it was just, I liked that they had an appreciation for cute things.
Yeah.
People there, they love Shiba, bless you, they love Shiba Inu, they love cats, they've got the cat cafes, and I remember I went to, they did a screening of Miracle on 34th Street at a stadium, and Kuni, who was she was our guide there, she said, "Oh, do you hear what they're saying?" And I said, "Oh, what are they saying?" And she said, "They're going, kawaii, they're going, she's so cute." So... And my sister, oh my gosh, my little sister was a baby at the time, and she had blonde hair and these big green eyes, and I don't think a lot of them had ever seen a baby like that.
Yeah.
So the fuss that she got in Japan, oh my gosh, we were both fussed over a lot. People thought we were very cute, but yeah, it was really cool. I want to go back there so badly.
Well, I hope you get to go.
Yeah.
Really quick, before we open up to the audience, I wanted to really ask you about this because I found it to be pretty cool. I wanted to know how it came about. But you have a very meta moment in an episode of Broad City where there's a very Mrs. Doubtfire-esque, I mean, it's almost shot-for-shot remake of the moment in the restaurant, and then you end up playing a server. How did that come about?
Well, I knew some people in common with the people who worked on Broad City, and I followed them, I think, on Instagram or on Twitter, and I got a message from them I think it was from Abby, saying, "Mara, it's so funny that you followed me because we're actually planning an episode based on Mrs. Doubtfire." And I wrote back like, "Oh my gosh, that's so funny." And then I think like later that night, maybe I don't know. Maybe I had too much caffeine. Maybe I had a glass of wine. I messaged them back being like, well, if you want me to do a, I was joking, half joking, like, oh, if you want me to do, a little cameo on it, let me know. And yeah, they put me as the waitress there. And it was so fun. That was one of the most fun sets I've ever been on. And yeah, they did a complete homage to the restaurant scene in Mrs. Doubtfire. And they brought in lines that, were said there into that show as well. Like the whole time.
The whole time? Yeah,
it
was so good.
They brought, and they were lovely and they were so kind to me. And I remember they went over by a day and they were so apologetic about it. And I said, look, the original took 2 weeks to film. So if you guys are getting this done in 2 days, that's impressive.
Yeah. Well, it's really fun. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. But,
it's called Burning Bridges, I think the episode is called. And Bridges was the restaurant that we were at in Mrs. Doubtfire.
It's hilarious. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and field my
pleasure.
questions and whatnot. But I'd love to open it up to the audience at this time. Go ahead and step on up to the mic and just say your name and your question.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here.
No, my pleasure. What's your name?
My name is Jordan.
Jordan, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. My husband's name is Jordan, too.
Really? That's really cute. 2 Jordans.
Yes. Was there any items that you took from the Matilda set that are very precious to you?
People always ask me this. Yeah. You usually don't get to take the props home because they're usually using props for other movies, for other shows.
So nothing?
But I did get to take the dress that I'm wearing at the end, where Miss Honey officially adopts me, I think, and that blue dress that I'm wearing at the tea party that we had. I did get to keep that. Also, a lot of times on movies, they'll give out jackets and hats that have the movie's name on it, and I still have my Matilda hat.
Love.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question. All right, hi. What's your name?
I'm Anne.
Hi,
and
Anne.
I was wanting to tell you my sister loves your movies.
Well, thank you so much.
And I was also wondering, do you believe in powers?
Do I believe in powers? Like Matilda's powers? I don't know. I mean, I think that Matilda's powers kind of came from her reading, and I think it's kind of a metaphor for the way that reading can like enhance your brain. I'm not really sure. Sometimes I think that, people will do things or believe things or can do things, and I'm like, I can't really explain that. But how do I put this? I guess I'm kind of a Scully, like from the X-Files. Like, I kind of need more evidence, I think, before I actually commit to believing in things like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Step on up to the mic. It's free 99.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Beck. I'm a high school teacher, and so I know you started working really young. I was wondering if you had any advice for balancing that life, work, and growing up to be, a respectable person while trying to do all of that.
Like for people who want to be actors?
Just in general, right? I think that acting probably has its specific challenges, but I think there's a lot of pressure on young people, and then when you add work into that has additional challenges. So any aspect of that work-life balance.
Okay, I think that, I think that boundaries are really important. I think that learning to say no to things is really important because I think that if you're like a people pleaser, you can end up being kind of resentful. So I think that that's really important. I also think you need to surround yourself with people who know you and like you. And I also think that if you're in the public eye, one thing you have to keep in mind is you shouldn't take criticism from people you don't respect. If they're not people who you would want to be around, who you would look up to or feel like you were on the same level with, why would you want to take criticism from them? I also think, I'm just getting into more general advice. I think that there's a lot in our sort of society. I especially feel like I see this in New York, like a lot of I'm just telling it how it is. I'm telling the truth. Just because you're being mean doesn't mean you're telling the truth. And if somebody's mean to you, there's people in my life that I kept around because I was like, oh, well, they're being honest with me. And eventually I was like, no, actually, I think they're wrong. Or maybe they are lying. I think they just like being mean.
Yeah, and I think that, young people all in general are much closer to being in the public eye with social media. So
yes,
I think that
it's very, very true.
Yeah.
So they need to, and also I would say to a lot of the young people today, enjoy having privacy. because I didn't realize for a long time that I could keep things private, and now it's fun. And granted, most of my privacy and most of my secrets are like really boring. It's just like, oh, I played Fallout Shelter on the couch for too long today. But, you know, it's still nice to have that. You gotta treasure your own privacy.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, hi, step on up. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name is Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Question about your experiences working on Miracle on 34th Street. I mean, that film was a remake of a beloved classic, so I just want to get you to know what your experiences were working on that film.
I mean, I was very nervous when I think I was old enough to understand that it was a beloved classic. And they didn't make as many remakes as they do now. Now everything is a remake, everything is a reboot. People are always asking me about a Matilda 2 or a Mrs. Doubtfire 2, and I'm like, I don't even know how those would be possible, you know, and would I be in it, and all these things. And, you know, I don't know, it would really depend. So there was a little bit of pressure, I think, on us to be on that. And I did watch the original. And ours is very different, but, you know, I had a good time filming it. The people who worked on it, Dylan McDermott was so nice, so funny. Elizabeth Perkins, so nice, so funny. Jane Leaves, you know, who was on Frasier, who I loved. Like, everybody there was great. It was a really, you know, great atmosphere. I will say the only hard thing was they styled us all like we were kind of in the 1940s, like the style of it, the clothes all sort of looked old-fashioned. And we were wearing a lot of heavy wool and corduroy, which was fine when we were filming in Chicago in March, but not in May and June. So you're under 1,000 lights in the middle of June, and you know we would have these big air conditioning tubes, and I would put my shoes in the tube so I could cool off. You know, we got like heat rashes. It was, you know, that could be a little bit rough, but also, like I said, it's really cool to be a part of people's family traditions. Right. You know, people are like, oh yeah, I watch it every Thanksgiving, every Christmas. Right. And that's really nice. And I got to work with John Hughes, who, you know, is classic. Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I always loved the Brat Pack, so yeah, he was very nice, and it was really fun to work with him.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, hi, step on up. What's your name and what's your question?
I'm Boy Jordan, you know.
Boy Jordan.
So, I just wanted to know, do you have a favorite scene you enjoyed filming while doing Matilda?
Favorite scene? Let's see. I think that like to film, probably, I mean, the one where we chase the Trunchbull out of the building was really fun because what kid doesn't want to have a food fight? So we threw so much stuff at her, and Pam was a good sport. I mean, Pam Ferris, who played Miss Trunchbull, I always tell people is one of the nicest people I've ever met, without exaggeration. And, you know, if you talk to her, she's just very soft-spoken. She's actually very pretty. She just wants to tell you about, like, her rescue dogs and cats and, you know, maybe her garden.
That's sweet.
The first time I met her, we had a tea party, and she showed me pictures of her cats. Yeah, so that was really fun, I think. And also the, let's see, I think that also the montage at the end with Miss Honey, you know, that was super fun to film. You know, we went rollerblading, we had a picnic. And I remember there's actually one scene where we're eating chocolates from there. And most of the chocolates that I ate in the movie were not very good at all. But the ones at the end in that scene were good. And Danny was shouting out directions to us, like, you know, do this, do that. And then he said, feed each other. And I remember looking very sadly because I had chosen a chocolate that I knew I was going to like. And we went to feed each other, and Embeth gave me hers, and I bit into it, and it was full of cherry juice. And the cherry juice exploded down the front of my wardrobe. And yeah, we had to yell cut so I could go get changed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, hi, step on up. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name is Michelle. I love Mrs. Doubtfire. It's
Thank
my
you.
favorite movie with Robin Williams, and you did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
What do you remember about working with him? He was just such a splendid comedian and actor in general.
He was a great guy, you know, he was very gentle. One thing my dad always said he appreciated about him is if you watch some of his comedy, it's very much like for adults, you know, his stand-up is very much for adults. But when he was with kids, he was always appropriate, never said bad words, never said anything there, and that's something that I really appreciate, and that's something that, you know, I try to do as well. I think that, you know, you should let kids be kids. I can't really control it if kids are watching Hell of a Boss, but, you know, I do my best to, you know, keep that separate, I think. But I remember my mom said her favorite memory of him was one of the first days we met him. He asked what kind of music I like, and lifelong drama nerd that I am, I said I liked musicals. And he, while dressed as Mrs. Doubtfire, started singing There Is Nothing Like a Dame. So he was a man dressed as a woman singing that there was nothing like a woman. It was pretty funny. And I actually remember being a little nervous when they did the first makeup tests. He didn't look as normal as he does in the movie. And I remember being a little bit afraid, and he had this, you know, but he said to me in this like very gentle Scottish accent, like, "It's okay, you don't need to be afraid." And I was like, okay. And after that, I immediately warmed to him, and we had a great time.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, hi, what's your name and what's your question?
Hi, I'm Stephanie. My question is, what is something that you have yet to experience or accomplish in your life that you want to experience or accomplish before you die?
That's a really good question. I would love to write a fiction book of some sort. I've written a nonfiction book called Where Am I Now? I also wrote sort of a short nonfiction story that's available on Everend called Good Girls Don't, which is about being a people pleaser and the anger and resentment that can foster. I would also really, really love to do a voice in an animated feature. That's something I would love to do. I've done animation and TV shows. I was on Batman the Animated Series. I was on Hell of a Boss. I was on Big Hero 6, the series. I was on, what else? I was on BoJack Horseman. You know, I had roles in all of those and absolutely loved it. So I love doing animation. But voice acting is really mostly what I do these days. I do a lot of audiobooks. That's one of my favorite things to do. And I think that doing a voice in an animated movie would be really, really fun. Also, doing voices in video games would be fun. I've auditioned for a bunch, but I've never gotten one, and I think that that would be really fun to do, too.
Thank you for your question. Hi, step on up. What's your name and what's your question?
Hello, my name is Evan. Firstly, I love your suit.
Thank you. I love your outfit.
Oh, thank you. Yes, so we love all your movies, but I'm also a big Night Vale fan, so I know you as the faceless old lady who secretly lives inside of our homes. And I was just wondering how the experiences differ from acting as these very wholesome roles and then voicing this character who's very mysterious and creepy and semi-omnipotent and such.
That is a great question. I really love playing that character because I think that, you know, when I was little, I played a lot of like, you know, either cute little girls or like, you know, I played a lot of little girls, and I think that really only in the past couple years have we realized like the power that little girls can have, you know, and so I felt sort of, you know, kind of ignored or condescended to there, and there is something really powerful in playing a character like the faceless old woman who secretly lives in your home. Because, yeah, just the name alone, it's fun being creepy. And that's another reason that I love voice acting is you're not limited by how you look. You know, I've played a demon, I've played, you know, little kids, I've played adults, I've played like, you know, people who were, you know, like I'm very short and I've played like, you know, these like tall, hot, billionaire, you know, blonde geniuses. I've played all kinds of things. I played a spider. So you're not limited by what you look like, which I really love, which I really appreciate. And I think that one of the tricks to playing the faceless old woman is she's just kind of detached, I think, and she just kind of has been there and she's been observing for a very long time. And I think that just the way that she views the world because of that is very different. So, but I've also been told that I have a naturally creepy voice and a naturally soothing voice. And it's probably no surprise that a lot of the books I do these days are either horror or romance because my voice tends to fit those. Although the secret is that I'm actually a huge wuss and a lot of horror really scares me.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So you said you wanted to write a fiction book. You know,
Yeah.
I'm currently working on a book myself.
Oh, nice.
You know, and I have to go back and rewrite it because I just started learning about all the things about, because I've always loved to write, but I don't
Yeah.
know anything about the structure and the 3-act structure
Yeah.
and pinch points and plot points and things like that. So now I have to go back and like rework everything. But if you were to get started on your book, what would it be about? Do you have any
I don't
idea?
know. I mean, I definitely have some ideas. Lately, I've been writing more short fiction, and it's been fun. But that was actually what I always wanted to be. Like when I was a kid, and I was, you know, in the trailers on movie sets, I would be working on stories behind the scenes. I also think that I really liked writing plays. And I think that's probably because I read a lot of dialogue when I was a kid, and I heard a lot of, you know, adults talking, and I was sort of a natural eavesdropper. So I think that dialogue figures really into it really hard. I mean, I love all kinds of books. I love, you know, I love literary fiction. I love science fiction, speculative fiction. I love fantasy. I love romance. I love, you know, thrillers. I love so many different kinds of books. So I don't know. It would really depend. And also, I have a couple of different books right now, and I'm like, in my head, and I'm like, which one should I focus on?
Right.
That's the hard question.
Yeah, definitely. You know, when it comes to writing a book, did you take any, I mean, you went to school. Did you have any, like, writing training or?
Yeah, I studied playwriting in college as one of my projects and as one of my studies, and I really liked it. And I also took an autobiography writing class, which was great because I had a lot of weird stories from my childhood. And so I wrote about my life, and then I put on a one-woman show my senior year of college talking about my childhood. And a lot of that I took and put into my first book, Where Am I Now?
That's really cool. The book that you wrote, it came out in 2016, right?
Yeah.
And do you think you'll ever write another book in that same realm of like autobiographical style, but like where are you now?
Maybe. I mean, I Good Girls Don't, which I wrote, which was on, you know, Scribd/Everand. That I think was sort of a follow-up piece about it where I kind of elaborated on maybe some things that I missed out on talking about. And, you know, but I also think like sometimes people will say, like I remember I talked to people who made TV shows and they were like, oh, have you ever thought about like pitching a TV show about your life? And I said, well, my childhood was interesting. My life now is boring. Like there would be some, I was like, there'd be some very exciting things where it would be like, I'm touring the country with Night Vale. But there would also be things where it's just like, and you know, what is she doing now? Oh, she's sitting on the couch watching Fallout. Like it's not, you know, not super exciting now. So yeah, so I don't know if anybody would be interested in that.
Okay. Well, we do have a few minutes left here, so I want to wrap things up by asking you what you have on the horizon, what we can look forward to, and of course, where we can see you next.
I have a very fun voiceover project coming out that I am very excited about. Worked with somebody that I have met at cons who is just lovely, and another person who is just lovely. The whole cast is lovely. And that is something that I'm very excited about, and I think some of you guys out there, especially if you like, you know, things that are spooky and funny, are absolutely going to love. And yeah, let's see what else. I'm doing a lot of audiobooks these days. You can look me up on Libro.fm or on Audible. It's probably one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. I love telling a story. You know, my mom first read Matilda out loud to kids when, you know, I was really young. And now, now my job is reading out loud to people too.
That's really awesome. And one last question. You'll be here for the rest of the day?
I will.
Awesome. So if you didn't get a chance to ask your question now, of course, you can go see Mara down at her table for the rest of the day. But one more time, let's get a big round of applause. Thank you so much for being here. The one and only Mara Wilson.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely.